Welcome back to Football Daily, where today we're talking about some transfer rumours. That's right, the tier lists are back. Technically, I suppose, stay or go that I did last week with Tottenham Hotspur is a sort of tier list, but today, much more of a traditional tier list. In front of me on the laptop, I've got 18 or 19 of the biggest transfer rumours of the week so far involving your guys' clubs at home. I've got 4 tiers I've got nailed on. Keep your eye on it. Unlikely and absolutely no chance. Get me on the X Factor. Okay, we're going to be starting with Declan Rice. Now, we've spoken heavily, haven't we, about Declan Rice joining Arsenal. But they have seen an initial £80 million bid rejected and just lurking in the background, Manchester City. So I thought today we'd talk about Declan Rice potentially joining Manchester City. Where would I put this and what do I think of it? Well, first and foremost, I think it's certainly one to keep your eye on. I think Arsenal probably still the front runners, and this does have just a little whiff of West Ham attempting to increase the value of their player. But if Manchester City are legitimately in, as some of the reporting in the Telegraph has suggested, then I'm sure it's going to be hard for Declan Rice to turn down that opportunity. This is a treble-winning Manchester City side that are going to have vacancies in their midfield if Ilkay Gundogan is to leave, which it seems increasingly likely he will. Calvin Phillips doesn't feel like he's going to get a chance in that side. So if you're Declan Rice, you must be thinking, I could start for Manchester City here. Maybe the greatest Premier League side of all time. Definitely win pretty much unlimited silverware, because let's face it, they're winning the Premier League next season, favourites for the Champions League, and they're going to be paying me maybe more money than I can earn at Arsenal. How do you say no, man? How would you say no? You've got to have massive faith in the Mikel Arteta project, and I'm sure he does. And I think Arsenal is a very, very good option for him. But if Manchester City come calling, it's hard to say no. Whilst on the topic of Arsenal, let's chat about Kai Havertz. Another one I think we should be keeping our beady little eyes on. Now, David Ornstein broke this week, didn't he, that Arsenal are very seriously interested in the German forward. Sami Mokbel, who is also very reliable, tweeted that Chelsea have a valuation of about 70 million. Arsenal willing to go to 60 million, which seems like a big old chunk of their budget. And of course, the player, Kai Havertz himself, is keen on the move. It's an intriguing one, because on paper, you're not exactly sure where he fits. You know, he's not really a striker. He's not really that number 9. We haven't seen him play in a more reserved role in an awful long time, maybe even since his days in Germany. So where does he fit at Arsenal? Is he a Gabby Jesus backup? Is he a Martin Odegaard backup? Maybe Arteta believes he can play in multiple different roles, multiple different systems, and therefore offer cover up front, in midfield, maybe off the right or the left in an absolute emergency. Clearly, he's a very versatile player. I wouldn't describe him as a goal scorer. You know, his numbers at Chelsea, having played an awful lot of minutes at number 9, pretty disappointing. But maybe he just needs a fresh start. He's still only 24 years of age. Mikel Arteta has a clear track record of improving players. This is definitely one to watch. And I want to hear from you guys at home. Arsenal fans, are you excited about the prospect of Kai Havertz joining the club? It's an intriguing one, isn't it? I'm not sure. Next up, a transfer that pretty much blew my socks off. In fact, probably blew everybody's socks off when they first saw the Telegraph and Luke Edwards break this one. It's Nico Barella to Newcastle for £50 million. What? Now, subsequently, Fabrizio Romano has come out and kind of hit back on these claims a little bit. He said that Inter Milan are going to want a much bigger fee for him than £50 million. Nothing is extremely advanced. There has been no bid. There's been no agreement on personal terms. So it seems like this one is still quite a long way off. So I'm going to put it in unlikely at the moment because, quite frankly, it's one of the most shocking moves of the summer. But yet again, it's another example of Newcastle maybe just creeping up, taking people by surprise. Not that you should be surprised because they have pretty much unlimited wealth at this stage. And signing some of the best talent in their role across Europe. This season we've seen Barella be an absolute beast in the final third. Shot creating actions, expected assists, expected goals, progressive carries, all off the charts. His partnership with a player like Guimaraes, I mean, it's a scary thought. I think they'd still need maybe a more out-and-out defensive midfielder to allow Bruno to push a little bit higher, because Barella is not a DM. He's not a DM. I've seen some people on Twitter saying this would unlock Bruno to be playing more advanced. That's not Barella's game. So they potentially need another 6 as well, but that midfield, Joe Willock, Barella, Bruno Guimaraes, Joe Linton, it's starting to take some serious shape, man. Let's do a couple of Man United ones then. Hojlund, we've spoken about quite heavily, haven't we? Particularly on Monday Vibes. If you haven't watched that already, please do go and watch it. But some breaking news since Monday Vibes is that Atalanta, following Manchester United pulling out of the Harry Kane race, now demanding around 100 million euros for Hojlund. That is crazy money for a player who, 20 starts for Atalanta last season. Yes, really, really solid underlying numbers and clearly a massive prospect, but very much a prospect, very much unproven. It feels like they are going to run United up, despite the fact we also saw reports in The Athletic saying they're going to want around £45 million. It's a bit confusing. What is certain is United are very interested in him, so it's one to keep your eye on. Another one to keep your eye on is Onana to Manchester United. Now, The Guardian broke this yesterday. It was Jacob Steinberg that United are rivaling Chelsea, who of course have a long-standing interest in Onana. And this one makes an awful lot of sense. I think it's definitely one to keep your eye on. I think it's one to keep your eye on? I mean, I want to keep my eye on it because I'm a Man United fan, but maybe it's unlikely just because of United's budget. Yeah, I think United, until they've made a decision on De Gea, this one feels unlikely. Now, Jacob Steinberg, to be fair, in his piece, does talk about if United choose not to spend bucket loads on the number 9, they will instead spend bucket loads on a goalkeeper, which is an interesting change of narrative, because we've seen reports that David De Gea's contract has been agreed for an awfully long time now, but still no announcement. Now, Onana, we know, has unbelievable ability on the ball. He's worked with Erik ten Hag very, very consistently throughout his career, of course, winning multiple titles at Ajax. He was signed for free by Inter just 12 months ago, reported fee of around 50 million euros. His post-shot expected goals numbers, his save percentage, very, very impressive yet again. Look, if this is a battle between United and Chelsea, and United have got the money to buy him, I think he ends up at United, but I think it's unlikely because I do believe the club is still prioritising a number 9 and a central midfielder at this stage. Palhinha to West Ham, also doing serious rounds. Another one I think is probably unlikely. He's under contract until 2027, and despite the fact TalkSport tweeted out saying he has a release clause in his contract for Fabrizio since come out, he's poo-pooed that. Tony Khan has confirmed there is no release clause in Palhinha's contract. Now, I think he would be a great signing for West Ham. The one thing I don't think West Ham can do when replacing Declan Rice is go like for like. I think you've got to sign somebody, or at least 2 players, that can do a bit of each of his game, because he's such a unicorn, Declan Rice, in his progressive carry numbers, his progressive passing numbers, but also his defensive numbers, that if you sign a player like Palhinha, most tackles of any player in Europe's top 7 leagues last season, a defensive monster, then you can potentially sign another player to partner Lucas Paqueta that progresses the ball a little bit, therefore covering his role, Declan Rice's role, in 2 players. Do I believe it's actually going to be possible to get Fulham's most important player for a reasonable fee when you've just sold a player for £100 million? No, I don't. I think they might have to be a little bit more creative. West Ham, I think this one's unlikely. Let's talk about Brennan Johnson to Brentford, because Brentford, according to Sky Sports News, had a £30 million, a club record bid, rejected for the young Welsh winger this week. If 30's getting rejected, this one, it feels unlikely to me. Now, Brentford actually had 3 offers rejected, according to John Percy in the Telegraph, for Brennan Johnson in January. So they're clearly extremely keen. He's obviously a priority target. Had a great season last year. I think it was 8 goals in the Premier League in his debut season. Still extremely young. You think back to the season before in the Championship. Very, very impressive numbers. 15 goals there. Look, you can see the fit. You can see the fit. But if 30's being rejected, I don't see Brentford going and paying the 45, 50, whatever it ends up being, that actually brings Forest to the negotiating table. I think they probably are smart enough and have a creative enough scouting department, will have cheaper alternatives to Brennan Johnson. Let's stay towards the bottom half of the table then, and Bournemouth in advanced talks for Justin Kluivert. Now, this is a Fabrizio Bomba, so let's just put this one in nailed on. It seems extremely likely to happen at this stage, according to Italian media as well. Now, of course, he had originally agreed a deal, was it back in January or last year, to join Fulham. That actually fell through because of work permit issues. This one's not going to fall through because of work permit issues because, of course, he has now played in La Liga. I think it's an interesting signing. There was massive promise there, wasn't there, in the Eredivisie? But he struggled at Roma. I saw the interview. I can't remember which podcast it was on this week, but he was on a podcast this week talking about his desperation to get out of Rome. Lots of broken promises there. 3 fairly unsuccessful loan spells. This would be a permanent transfer as well. Bournemouth owners have come out extremely punchy. They're new ones. We saw him in the January window going and taking Dango Ouattara. I think Justin Kluivert, despite the fact he's had a couple of poor seasons since he's moved to Rome, he's still a big name. Partly because of his dad and his reputation, but equally I think this would be a little bit of a coup for Bournemouth. I'd be excited if I was a Bournemouth fan. Justin Kluivert, I wouldn't have ever said Bournemouth can sign Justin Kluivert 18 months ago. Next up, let's go to Manchester City. Josko, Gvardiol, the rumours persist. Fabrizio talking about interest this week from Manchester City at £85 million. I think this one's unlikely because Aymeric Laporte is still at the club. I think if Aymeric Laporte leaves, which does seem likely, I read the Athletic report this week talking about his potential exit. He was extremely emotional, wasn't he, after they won the Premier League title and the Champions League. It felt like the end of his Manchester City time to some extent. Fair enough as well, because again, I think it was under 1,000 minutes this season for him, wasn't it? There's going to be plenty of top clubs interested in him. He's only 29 years old. And if he leaves, then I think a player like Josko Gvardiol becomes an almost no-brainer. I know they've got an awful lot of defensive cover. You think of Ake, you think of Akanji, Ruben Dias, John Stones. But, Stones is playing this sort of new hybrid role. Ake's played an awful lot of minutes at left back. I think there probably is a space in the defence for Josko Gvardiol. The best young centre-back in world football. Sensational World Cup. An unbelievable passer of the ball. Still only 21 years old. And yes, £85 million would be a world record fee. And that's what Leipzig clearly want to achieve. But I think it would probably be worth it. I don't think Man City should bat eyelids at £85 million. It's a drop in the ocean for them, for a player of his quality. Let's go to Moises Caicedo next. Now, a bit of a twist here because the Times yesterday reported that Arsenal have pulled out of the race, which is a shock to me. That's a shock to me. And it feels like they've instead diverted their funds to Kai Havertz a little bit. Now, I think that would personally be a mistake. I think Caicedo is sensational at 21 years old, already one of the best defensive midfielders in the league. I think he is a shoo-in to be a superstar. And with Thomas Partey's slightly disappointing back end of the season, I thought it would be quite natural that eventually he moves on. Caicedo fits in there alongside Rice. A young, exciting midfield. But with Arsenal moving aside, Chelsea, now the front runners, and I think this is one to definitely keep your eye on over the next week or so. I really think they're going to push hard. Clearly they're going to have midfield exits. Kante's gone. It feels like Mount is pretty much nailed on to leave at this stage. We saw Gallagher linked to Tottenham Hotspur in the week. Ruben Loftus-Cheek is being linked with AC Milan continuously, despite the fact that seems a bit rocky now. And it does leave a space in the defensive midfield position, particularly with the exit of Kante, for a player like Caicedo. Caicedo and Fernandes as a midfield too. It's pretty special. It's pretty special. And I think, again, £80 million is a pretty fine fee for a player of his calibre when, players like Declan Rice are going for upwards of £100 million. I think he's not on Declan Rice's level yet, but he's only 21. And Caicedo's future is sky high. I think going to Chelsea would be an amazing bit of business for Pochettino. I think another one of our nailed-ons to join Justin Kluivert is David Raya. Personal terms reportedly have been agreed, according to Fabrizio, with Tottenham Hotspur. I know there's a bit of a difference on the fee. Brentford supposedly want 40 and Tottenham sort of want 20. But in this situation, when a player's got a year left of his contract, there ends up being some negotiation. It's just a game of chess this early in the window because Tottenham are aware Brentford will want to get some money for him. He's not going to sign a new deal, as he's made repeatedly and publicly clear. I think this one's a pretty clear case. They end up meeting in the middle at like 30 or £35 million. I think David Raya is definitely going to be a Spurs player. And let's be real, it would be a huge upgrade on Hugo Lloris. We're talking about one of the highest save percentages in the league, a fantastic distributor, very commanding of his area. Hugo Lloris, none of those things really anymore. Once upon a time, yes, but last season, extremely suspect. Shot stopping, distribution all over the place. Not confident when coming to claim balls in the air. Yes, he was a leader, but Tottenham letting him move on was the right decision. Should we stick with Tottenham, who are linked by the Manchester Evening News, I think it was, or the Times maybe, with Jadon Sancho to the tune of about £50 million. I think I've just stuck this in no chance. Totally unrealistic for me. Manchester United's forward line absolutely decimated anyway. Desperately need forwards. I can't see them letting Jadon Sancho go. I think wages would be an issue for Tottenham. He's on huge money at Manchester United. I think all over there's problems with this deal. I actually think Jadon Sancho as well, towards the second half of the season, started to show signs and little shoots of promise for Manchester United. Yes, he had a couple of poor games. I think particularly the FA Cup final wasn't his best day at the office. But he's an option wide for Manchester United, and he's also an option in the 10 space creatively. I don't see a world in which Man United let another forward leave when they're so thin on the ground, let alone to a direct rival. Whilst we're on the topic of Manchester United, let's talk about Mason Mount. £40 million was the opening bid this week, reported by literally everybody. It appears that personal terms aren't going to be an issue here. Some even reporting they've been agreed upon. Personally, I think this is a fantastic signing. Look, Chelsea want, 70 million? United are at 40. Again, it's a game of chess. He's not going to sign a new deal, according to reports. So United can either wait and call Chelsea's bluff or go early and pay a little bit more. I think it'll end up being like 55, 60 million pounds for Mason Mount. I think that's a fantastic bit of business. I really do. Clearly, he's exactly the type of player Erik ten Hag wants on that left-hand side of the midfield. Basically, another 10, extremely mobile, such a hard worker off the ball, two-time Chelsea Player of the Year in the last 3 years. I know he had massive injury problems and fell apart last season, but who didn't at Chelsea? I think this is a brilliant bit of business. I think this is effectively nailed on. I'd be surprised if Mason Mount doesn't join United at this stage. Whilst we're on the topic of midfielders, let's talk about Yunus Musah, the Valencia central midfielder, of course, US international. CBS, US broadcaster, reporting that West Ham very interested in him. Now, this starts to make a bit more sense when you think of potentially interested in Palhinha and Musah. Musah, a fantastic carrier of the ball, but not such a big defensive output. You think about, could you get both of these? I don't think they're going to end up getting Palhinha, but Musah maybe more likely. In the same CBS report, they claim that Chelsea had a €35 million offer rejected for Musah in January. If that's the case, you imagine Valencia want a similar sort of amount, maybe in the summer window, a little bit less. I'm not too sure. West Ham fans, again, I want to hear your thoughts on Musah here, because great ball progressor, very young, pretty versatile. He's played on the right at times for Valencia, and they've been crap all season. I think they finished 16th, didn't they? I think one to keep your eye on. West Ham fans, I want to hear from you. More midfielders. We're moving on to Liverpool, where James Ward-Prowse was linked earlier in the week. I mean, it's just no chance, isn't it? I can't believe, by the way, he didn't have a relegation release clause written into his contract. 2026, we've seen reports this week that Southampton want 50 million for him. I think we might see James Ward-Prowse playing Championship football unless that fee drops an awful lot. Again, West Ham might well be interested in him. Fantastic dead ball specialist. Okay on the ball and an extremely hard worker off it. Nobody covered more distance in the Premier League last season than James Ward-Prowse. So West Ham does feel a fairly nice fit for him. But at that fee, there's no chance. And Liverpool come off it. Whilst we're on the topic of Liverpool, let's do Kephren to Thuram. This one feels nailed on at this stage. Fabrizio talking about contacts with his agent. Some reports in France suggesting that personal terms have even been agreed. Nice supposedly want €45 million for what is an exceptional level talent. Great ball carrier. Really great ball carrier between the lines. Not the best off the ball at this stage, but at progressing the ball 40, 50 yards, Thuram is extremely exciting. And I do think at times last season, Liverpool struggled with that, progressing from midfield to that forward line, getting the ball into the likes of Gakpo. And sometimes you can't pass, you've got to have a player who can dribble there. And Kephren to Thuram's certainly going to help with that. Now, of course, they've already got McAllister through the door, and it feels like what they're doing, Liverpool, is without having to spend the 100 on Bellingham, course, he was announced this week to Real Madrid. They're spreading their bets across a number of midfielders. You've seen McAllister already join, Kephren to Thuram likely to join as well. I would imagine a third comes through the door, maybe a slightly more defensive-minded one. McAllister, very much a versatile attacking sort of midfielder. Kephren to Thuram, a great ball progressor, great ball carrier. Maybe a more defensively solid option comes in as well. Obviously, they had the emergence of Curtis Jones towards the back end of the season and Trent Alexander-Arnold in that new defensive midfield position. But Liverpool fans, I want to ask you this question. You know, a few months ago, you would have thought, potentially I would have thought, Liverpool are going to end up this summer, Bellingham maybe, Caicedo maybe, Mount maybe, and you might end it up with McAllister, Kephren to Thuram, maybe Manu Kone. Now, I'm not saying that's a massive negative thing, but I want to hear from you guys at home. Are you happy with that? I think it's interesting. I think there's going to be a lot of reliance put on the likes of Curtis Jones and Trent Alexander-Arnold to take steps in that midfield role next season. But Kephren to Thuram certainly looks exciting. Let's go to Tottenham, where the Daily Mail, one of the funniest bids of the week. I think this is clearly going in no chance. This is the £50 million double bid. So £50 million for Maddison and Barnes. I mean, Maddison alone, we saw earlier reports in the week from the Telegraph that they want £60 million for. He's under contract till 2024, so I don't see them getting that fee. Don't get me wrong. I think it might be more like 40, 50. But Harvey Barnes, contract to 2025. More reports that they want £40 million-ish for Harvey Barnes. These are two exceptional players. I think James Maddison put up 18 goal involvements last season. Harvey Barnes himself scored 13 goals. £50 million for the pair. Am I missing something here? Like, Maddison would be an amazing fit at Tottenham in this Ange Postecoglou system, where he plays those two attacking eights in the half spaces, crossing from that position. James Maddison is perfect for that right-hand side area. I think Barnes would be a good player as well. Don't get me wrong. Back up to Son, great. But £50 million for the pair? Taking the piss. Finally, I thought we should just touch upon Kylian Mbappe to Real Madrid. The transfer saga to end all transfer sagas. I mean, let's just put it and keep your eye on it. For 3 years deep, it's the most boring transfer saga of all time, and I've been involved in Frankie de Jong to United. So that's it for today's episode of We Need to Talk. Plenty to unpack there, and loads I want to hear from you guys at home. Leave your comments below. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, hit subscribe. Thanks very much for watching, everybody. We'll see you later.